Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Neurocomics, an underground comic from 1979, published by Last Gasp. Looking at the logo here, you'd think it was called Timothy Leary, but the title is actually Neurocomics. But the reason why Timothy Leary's name is so prominent is because this is all based and adapted from the writings of Timothy Leary. In the mid to late 70s, he kind of stopped doing the whole tune in, turn on, drop out stuff and wasn't necessarily proselytizing LSD like he once was. He began developing this kind of model of the evolution of human consciousness. I think it's called the Eighth Circuit model, something like that. It's kind of kooky. It's kind of pseudoscience, very hippy dippy, very very 70s. Starts off with this really nice wraparound cover by this guy Tim Cajero. Never heard of this guy before, and really fun cover. I obviously like it because it's totally an homage to Jack Kirby here. Like, there's no way he wasn't trying to do a little shout out to Jack Kirby with this, the pose of this guy and his arm outstretched like that. That is so Kirby. Even his outfit is very Kirby-like. All of this mechanical stuff and pretty groovy, cool sci-fi cover. The inside front cover is kind of has nothing to do with the rest of the comic. It's just like a gag. Dr. Leary's Evolutionary Deli. And we see prehensile tails, 98 cents a pound, opposable thumbs, pickled pineal glands, snake legs. But it's just kind of this goofy gag. So the adapters of Timothy Leary's writings, at least script-wise, it's George DiCaprio, the published, edited, wrote many underground comics, kind of a patron of the underground comic scene. I gotta think he was some rich guy or something. It seems like he was always having parties for all the other underground guys. Almost like, he was like a patron or something. He just loved underground comics a lot. And also helping with the script adaptation is Pete Von Schally, who also does the artwork. Pete Von Schally, I've never seen another comic by him. But he went on to become a very successful storyboard artist in Hollywood for decades. He did like Freddy Krueger movies and stuff like that. So he's never really gone back to comics. He doesn't have to. He's probably really rich. And he does all the artwork throughout this comic. It does mention that these panel borders, these kind of technological panel borders, are inked by the cover artist, Cajero. And he also does all the lettering. Really nice lettering in this comic, by the way. So we start off with, this is kind of his manifesto. His little motto is smile, and the eye has a little square thing. Stands for space migration, intelligence increase, and life extension. Greetings, fellow nervous systems. And he's our narrator, this guy, this nervous system. Pretty well drawn. P. Von Schally has a very simple style, but he also draws some really good, trippy panels in here, kind of great psychedelic sci-fi art. So I have a pretty, what's the word? Pretty low threshold for anything metaphysical. I'm kind of like just a dumb caveman. I really don't like hippy dippy stuff. But this is it was entertaining. I read this last night, and even though I'm just like, sure, whatever you say, Timothy Leary, I don't know what you're talking about really. But it's entertaining because it's almost like sci-fi concepts and some really fun things to think about, even though it's all hypothetical and, like I said, it's pseudoscience, so whatever. It's kind of gobbledygook. There's a kind of neat little trippy panel. Talking about how we don't utilize all our brains, We live in tunnel realities, only aware of a small band on a gigantic spectrum. This is why we have to evolve our consciousness. So we see why space migration is important. Obviously, the Earth could be hit by an asteroid tomorrow. And no matter how much we evolve, if that happens, we'll all die. It doesn't matter. We won't get to evolve further. We need intelligence increase. That's instrumental in making this great leap outward into space. And we need life extension, which will give us time to evolve beyond physical form, to go beyond body consciousness and brain consciousness. And part of this comic kind of reminds me of Larry Gonick's Cartoon History of the Universe, because there's a lot of humor in here. Like he's, just like Larry Gonick, he's explaining these, kind of complex things, but he's like making it kind of fun. So, for example, we see the very beginnings of life on Earth. We see these single-cell amoebas in the ocean. But as you know, some amoebas decided to check out, see what the land was like, and get close to the land and be like, yeah, maybe we should try to go up there. And they make it seem like all the older amoebas are just like old people. They're like, it's terrible. These kids just lie around in shallow pools ingesting calcium. We didn't do that in our day. So talking more about just evolution as we know it already, we see the fish, amphibians. This is a well-drawn parade of evolution. All pretty nice, well-drawn. I like this panel, just this woman imagining her perfect self, her cosmic being. This supposedly is what hopefully one day humans will be able to evolve into. Really nice psychedelic stuff going on here. We see some of the obstacles to man's evolution. The church, the Bishop of Witchburn. His church has the answers. Get your truth here, but he fails to consider the future. The eco tripper, basically like a back to the land hippie type. And he doesn't realize that man is a techno creature. We always have been. We make clothes to keep us warm. We make spaceships to keep evolving. We see Dr. Drag. He's just a cynical scientist. Space colonies are impossible. We see Fatso Di Bosso. He doesn't want people to rock the boat. He just wants people to keep working for him and obeying him. We see Guru Screw You, and he's got the right idea. Body consciousness, exploring inner space, but it's not enough. We got to go somewhere. You can't just sit on top of a mountain, gazing at your navel, thinking, Swami stuff. We see the military. They just want to put bombs up in space. That's all they care about. This is a nicely designed page. I like this. It's a really good looking comic overall, I think. Definitely the lettering is great. And just the design makes it more palatable. Because these are some heady concepts we're trying to digest here. And they definitely go out of their way to try to make it as lucid as they can. So basically, Timothy Leary, we're getting into the meat of the comic here, explaining the 8-circuit system. The first 4 are terrestrial. That kind of is what man has evolved since the beginning of time to roughly the 20th century. And then the next 4 are post-terrestrial, and that's what humanity will hopefully evolve into. So now, here we go. Each circuit has 3 stages. I don't know why, though, this bugs me. He names each stage after an astrological sign, which is like, you're already trying to, this pseudoscience you're trying to force down into our brains. But then, I gotta add stupid astrology stuff, which just makes it seem dumber. It's kind of intelligently described, all these things, even though, I don't know if they're true or, well, some of it is obviously evolution, but it's just kind of, nonsense. But then just putting the astrological bit into it just makes it like, okay, now I don't even want to read this. But it is pretty entertaining. And basically each stage, he kind of has a binary system. He uses like evolution of life, an amoeba in the ocean, and the life cycle of a human. So the first stage, for example, like an amoeba and a fetus in the womb, it's just they have a rudimentary impulse, float and eat, pretty vegetative, Creatures evolve, the baby is born, gets bigger, and each one, there's a leap, an evolutionary leap. Obviously, language is a big stage. We see a caveman painting on the walls and a child painting on the walls before she can really write, because all that stuff led to language. Those little pictograms and stuff. This one's kind of sad. It's kind of a later development in civilization and evolution. But division of labor, invention of money as a medium of exchange, because those aren't good things. But I remember I took a Mesopotamia course in college, and the professor was an anthropologist, and I guess by their standards, that is a sign of a higher civilization. Because I guess, if you got some big bastard in charge ordering people around, you can make these big social projects. You can build a pyramid, for example. And to anthropologists, that's more important to a civilization than a fair and equitable society. So I always thought that was kind of sad. We get into like a sexual stage. Then the settling down, settling into family units. And then the last stage is insectoid socialization, hive consciousness. Kind of talking about religion. The 12th brain is geared for submission to hive authority. So I don't know if he's implying that we need to go through that stage to evolve. It seems like it would be nice if we could just skip that, but I don't know. It's not quite clear. This is kind of interesting. Normally I would dislike something like this, but after the first half, almost like a textbook, we kind of review what we just read. And I got to say, it was very helpful because it's a lot of heady stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe I kind of can wrap my head around this, And we just see a review of the first 4 circuits. So now we're getting to the second half. And basically it starts in the 20th century. I guess there was a big evolutionary leap in our brains from people taking mind-altering substances. People started getting into like spiritual stuff. But it's still basically a selfish stage. It's like the hippie movement, aimless and unproductive. Just kind of self-indulgent. But I guess it's a crucial step. Then the next phase, people becoming more like spiritual in the sense of like, looking within, doing stuff like yoga, all those kind of self-help type things, getting more in touch with their bodies, and then we just continue. And this is like, we're getting into this more sci-fi future stuff. And we'll continue to evolve. Really like this panel here. We see these little pictograms of all the evolution, the scenes we've just seen, but all connected with this little biomechanical whatever. Looks kind of cool. Oh yeah, I also wanted to point out, I really like the cartooning in that. His face and everything. It's really solid stuff. So now we're getting full on like psychedelic sci-fi shit going on. Look at this panel, that op art. Yeah, it's all by hand too. I want to give you an example of the writing. This is like, how kind of hippy-dippy it is. Neuroelectric fusion, the synergistic communication between two or more contelligences operating at the sixth circuit, telepathy. The ability to transceive at neuroelectric intensities. I don't know. Oh, I love this one. That's nuts. That's some fun, crazy abstract art. I kind of like this one too. So humanity is continuing to evolve, become more like cosmic beings. I love this one. Total sci-fi shit going on here. I guess this is saying that eventually we'll have to communicate with other genetic intelligences, interspecies symbiosis, like bees and flowers. That's some groovy shit. Excuse me. This looks like Eternity in the Doctor Strange comics, like his nephew or something. He's got the universe inside himself. Yeah, I wish I could explain this better to you guys. I'm sorry. I'm just lost. But like I said, it's kind of fun to read. It's weird. I usually have no patience for this kind of silliness, but it's fun. And, it's kind of like sci-fi crazy shit. This is the last stage. I guess we'll all become Rocky Horror fans or something. This kind of looks like airbrush. It's pretty well drawn, but those are weird shaped lips. And he starts talking about black holes for some reason. I don't really get it, why that has anything to do with our evolution. And I guess the lips represent a black hole, how it sucks. And, yeah, pretty weird panel. Pretty weird page. Then once again, we have our little wrap-up of what we just read to really hammer down whatever the fuck Timothy Leary's talking about. So that's it, guys. Pretty interesting comic. Actually, a damn interesting comic. This is one of the reasons I love Underground so much. It's like, what the fuck? This, back in the 70s, it was pretty much just like, yeah, we published comics about superheroes and maybe some funny animal comics for kids. But, the Underground guys were just like, we're going to make comics about whatever the fuck we want. And even a lot of those guys were hobbled by making it always about sex and drugs and hippie culture, whatever. But there's a lot of weirdos who are just like, no, I'm going to make this crazy comic. I don't know if anyone's going to want to read it, but I'm going to do it. And this is definitely an interesting little curio of the Underground era, even though it's kind of way past the prime since it's 1979. But even then, they were still cranking these weird little comics out. I like it. So, Neurocomics, 1979. Hope you enjoyed watching this. And I know I didn't explain it well to you. So, but I hope you got something out of it. And I also hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.